Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living in New York City. I'm Reverend Greg. We're trying to catch up with you all. On Thursday, we had several hundred people watching our class, and so Sunday is proving to be the same thing. So we're excited by the growth. We're also challenged by the growth. The lesson that I have been preparing for the past couple days is somewhere lost in cyberspace. So I come to the podium with the idea that the presentation always goes on, and I'm told Jimmy to retrieve one of my files. I wanted to start, because I had it on my desk and I've always loved it, with a poem by James Dillard Freeman. And I encountered this poem probably 30 years ago. I think it was written in the late 50s. He wasn't an astronaut, but this poem was it was carried to the moon. So let me share it with you. It starts out with a question: do you need me? And then it answers itself. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light that you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you don't understand my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in the absolute stillness beyond self can you know me as I am, and then just as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. And even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even with your fears, I am there. And in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray, and I'm there when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me. Only in your mind are the mist of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can, of yourself, do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your awareness. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. And so it is. So that particular reading has always been one of my favorites. I think this would be, Jimmy's bringing in the lesson. This would be a good time to introduce a couple people in our audience as he's doing that. You've all met Reverend Judith this morning, and I want to welcome those of you on the extended call. Maybe you don't know Reverend Dr. Julia. She's recently joined us. You been up here? Let her come up and say something for a moment while we're getting this thing printed up.
I was just enjoying it
Well, you can enjoy. Love to have you meet her. She's going to be more and more a part of things here.
Can you give me an idea what is this something? Or just anything?
What new thought? She's going to talk to you a little bit on what the practice, what we do at New Thought. Okay? We practice. And I'll be back in just a moment.
All right, Dr. Gray.
Okay.
Good morning to everyone. Welcome to those of you who are tuning in to us this morning. I want to give you a warm and a happy welcome. You're in the right place and at the right time. There is so much to speak about on what we do here. But the first thing that we do, we assemble ourselves together. We're all like-minded individuals. And we come together in a consciousness to remove what is not beneficial to us and to add what is beneficial to us. We allow ourselves to be open and receptive to the spirit within, because we understand that we live from within to without. And we experience the divine attributes within us. We were all born with these divine attributes: love and joy, peace, abundance, prosperity, good health, and that strength within us. And we understand as we share these divine attributes, we keep growing not only in consciousness, but in our daily lives. We understand then that every appearance before us in our lives, day after day, will reflect from our inner being or our inner consciousness. You know, we become that magnet and we start to draw and to just have that wonderful expanded consciousness. As we continue to place a thought, it's like a seed. We allow that thought to go into the soil of our consciousness. You know, it's like you're having that wonderful control of your life, of your being, and you're understanding day after day that as you accumulate these accumulative, good, healthy thoughts, that others are attracted to you. Others who feel the way that you feel, others who will enhance your growth, others who will take you from one stage to another, because we understand at that time, you know, as the little saying goes, I am my brother's keeper. And from there, you want to share this. You want to share this joy, this happiness. At least I did. You know, it's so rewarding that you want others to experience what you're experiencing. And it gives you a sense of relief. Amazing. It gives you a sense of relief. It relieves you from the inner conflicts, the things that will pop up into your mind, those thoughts that maybe at sometimes make you become not, you know, as joyful and as restful as you want to be. So in this teaching, we are constantly improving, we're changing. Change goes on effectively. And I would add, you know, from my experience, never blame yourself. Never feel guilty. Just know that you are a divine, unique, individual expression of God. May you be blessed. Thank you very much, Dr. Greg.
Thank you. It's good seeing you at the podium.
See, I got it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning once again. I want to ask any of you who are joining us on any of the social programs to send us a request, and Jimmy will send you a link. We're in the process of growth, and we're attempting to reach out to everybody. We're several hundred people behind. So we're going to get our organizational act together so that we can reach you quicker. But the best way to experience our services is through the Zoom call, because after every gathering, we have a chance to interact with you. Rather than represent a talk, a lesson, I'm going to talk about a few things that I'm passionate about. I'm reminded of some of my former teachers, like Reverend J. Scott Neal, who said to me, every single week, I go out there and I teach one lesson. I have to represent it every week. J. Scott Neal is the generation that comes before people my age. And he said, if I needed to, I could teach the science of mind from the Yellow Pages. Now, this audience probably doesn't even know what a Yellow Pages is anymore, because they don't use them. But basically, what he was trying to say is we deal with one principle, one idea, which is God in me, as me, is me. And he said, I can create a science of mind lesson out of virtually anything. He says, the challenge, the trick, is each week coming up with something that's different to illustrate the point that this universal power is always responding to us and accepting us as we accept ourselves. It's reflected in our world. Every single Thursday night, I ask one basic question of the audience in our Louise class. And the question is really one for you to ponder for yourself. And it's deceptively important. You don't know how important the question is. The question really is, what has it been like being you this week? And sometimes people feel like they want to tell you a whole story about everything that's happened. And that's never, ever what I'm going for there, because that's just a story anyway. What I'm looking for is your own assessment of how happy you have been. What amount of joy lives within your heart and being. And for you to notice if you've been missing the mark, and that's the only way. The idea of sin is only that it's not of God or anything. Sinning is, if there is a sin, it's just born out of ignorance. We do what my teachers used to say, dumb stuff. Born out of just reaction, we do things that are not necessarily always filled with intelligence. So that's, if there's a sin, if we're missing the mark, sometimes we're in a place of reaction. And we've forgotten to practice the teaching. Our teaching is a practice. There's a period of training. I first started at a Unity Church in Miami some 30 some odd years ago. I was interested. I was a good Christian kid, Catholic boy. And I knew that there was more to the story, more to it than original sin and a bunch of sins and grace, and and then I knew, I was taught to pray to God above, and if I were good enough, long enough, maybe I would be forgiven, and all of those types of things. I already knew that that wasn't the whole story by the time I was a young teenager. And by the time I went to a Unity Church, first of all, I was ready, because they basically took the lessons of the Gospels and presented them from a metaphysical point of view. The problem was never with Jesus. I'll go on the record of saying that. The problem was with the churches that came after Jesus. Okay? The teachings of Jesus are the teachings of New Thought. The institutions that came around him in the 4th and 5th century created a whole bunch of stuff that caused a whole bunch of problems for people all over the globe. Okay. Many of those churches went into different lands, conquered and colonized, and brought their way of thinking as being better and best. Unfortunately, they didn't always bring the message of Jesus truly. Jesus had a very unique message, and one that stands the test of time, and one that is shared by just about every religion in its origin on the earth. He would talk about there's a presence and a power that is within each and every one of us. And his message was one of universal love, and it was one always of forgiveness. And it was one where you don't judge, just simply stop. Simply stop wherever you see yourself judging anything, anyone, and yourself. Now, that's such an important message, and it's consistent with everything that this particular center stands for. This center is the home of Louise Hay. This is the center where Louise Hay received her education. Louise Hay went on to, when I say conquer the world, I mean she created a publishing company that became a phenomenon. And a book that sold 66 million copies in many languages and helped the world. So we're very proud of the fact that she started here, and I'm proud of the fact that someone put a cassette in my hand some 35 years ago, which was You Can Heal Your Life, or what I think was the first one. And somehow, you know how Spirit works, I wound up going to the Unity Center, which miraculously was down the road. And 2 weeks after I moved into the apartment, there was a sign on the marquee, You Can Heal Your Life. And I was a busy real estate broker at the time, young and thinking I knew everything about a whole bunch of things, when you really don't know a whole hell of a lot about anything. And so I started going to this class, and I know it's an old story for some of you who know me well, but about 9 months after I was in with that class, and I was taking it because I had a friend who was very ill at the time, and so there was something about Louise Hay and this healing that she was doing, or teaching and talking about, and it was a healing of a different kind. It wasn't with medicine, and we didn't discuss doctors, and we didn't discuss treatments in terms of where you go to get something, some new, medical thing. It was all about this word that I didn't understand, which was consciousness. It was about self-healing. I couldn't have known that she was going to be a pioneer in the New Thought movement or in the mind-body healing phenomena that was the generation, the decade that followed her. There's a whole host of authors that I became acquainted with later, Joan Borshenko and Bernie Siegel, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, and many, many others. So it was my encounter with Louise Hay and that group in the 80s, where she started teaching this wonderful philosophy, which I later understood to be the science of mind, though it was not called that in that class. That group was a group of people coming together, and everybody had something that they needed help with. I thought it was just a kind of like a support group, people with AIDS, but then I realized there were ladies there that weren't with AIDS, but they had relationship issues and other issues, and the group became so large that I wound up facilitating it 2 nights a week, and then it was a whole different group of people. So this message wasn't fitting in to any one demographic, because I had one night it was largely gay people who were traumatized by AIDS. That was the pandemic of the time. Those folks were being ostracized and rejected by society. There was tremendous fear. Nobody understood what the heck was going on. And at the time, Louise Hay was flying from New York to California week by week in what was called the Hay Rides, where she was teaching this simple message that this center has always taught about this law of being and about consciousness. So some of the basics, I'm going to go over a few things with you today, have lived with me for some 35 years. Because of this message and the miracles that I've seen it work out in so many people's lives, my own included. I understand that the science of mind is an extremely powerful way of living, a philosophy. It's more than a religion. It's something that you can use. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of religious science, said that there's power for good in the universe, and you can use it. And I thought, well, okay, what the heck does he mean by that? I used to know how to pray. I was good with prayer. I would pray, and I would have a sense of spirituality before I knew any of this stuff. But I also had indoctrinated in me, and we've talked about this in other lessons, the 4 agreements and things. We have a lot of stuff that we get indoctrinated with through no one's fault, but we just do when we're kids. In the center of my sense of who I was when I was a younger person, I was not okay. There were things about me that maybe I was ashamed of. Louise Hay would say the bottom line for everyone she's ever worked with, she says, if you get past all the stories, is I don't feel okay about who I am. I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel I'm attractive enough. I don't feel I'm smart enough. There's so many ways we reject ourselves. And I'm here to tell you most of that stuff happens when we're younger, when we're children, and I'm here to tell you it's nobody's fault. Now, I didn't know that when I was a younger person, because there was a time in my life where I figured it was everybody's fault. There were a lot of people I had to blame. And I can remember, as much as I love my father and his memory now, I can remember at a time where I could not stand him. And I was making my whole life about what was wrong with him and what he did to me. And say, of course, hindsight is 20/20, you know, and he turned out being the most important figure in my life as it works out. But we come in, we learn, we have all these things, you know, we get the best of the best from our families, and we also get some things that are highly suspect, things that we will later be wanting to let go of. So, bit by bit, as I got involved in this teaching and this philosophy, I didn't know that the greatest recipient of this work of Louise Hay would be me. Of course, you don't know that. And there's an old expression that we teach what we need to learn. And logically, after 2 or 3 years of teaching, I don't know if you really call teaching, I guess it's teaching, I was presenting this information in the school system, in hospitals, in spiritual centers, and I found that there's no place that this material is not useful. Okay? Because wherever I encountered people, also people who were dealing with addiction, wherever I encountered people, be it in a psychiatric hospital or in some very elegant settings, there's always this inner dialogue that our people have that somehow in some way is self-rejecting. That is, I'm not okay. Who I am is not just okay. So I'm going to circle back to let you know the secret of the Thursday night class. The Thursday night class is deceptively simple, and it's really, really important. And that's the reason everybody comes into our center, usually by means of it. You start to take a look at what that dialogue is, because it's what goes on with you week by week, hour by hour, is the most important conversation you'll ever have, ever with anyone. Because you are living with the most important person in the world, and that is you. And all thought is creative. So when I ask that question, what's it like being you? Is the universe having fun by means of you? Is the universe having a good time by means of you? Are you your own best friend? Are you telling yourself when you make a mistake, okay, we'll do it differently next time? Or are you doing a Britney Spears, oops, I did it again, The thing is, it's good to have a sense of humor about yourself, because I would know, just looking out at some of you, you would be really cool friends. But the question is, are you equally cool to yourself? Are you equally generous to yourself when you're missing the mark? Are you a friend unto yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Okay. All of life, Ernest Holmes has said, and just about every other spiritual great it has alluded to, if not said directly, is moving forward. All of life is expanding. You can look around, you can see it. Nothing is as it was a few years ago, and it will never be. It's always moving forward. Change is the only constant in life. I remember reading my pre-Socratic, that's before Socrates, authors, Heraclitus, saying you can't stand in the same river twice. You just can't. You can't read the book that you've read in the same way twice. Whatever you've ever read or done, whenever I approach the Science of Mind textbook or Louise Hay's material, I am always in a new place. You are an evolving being, and everyone else is too. So I invite you on Thursdays in particular to join in with us, connect with us, and do so on the Zoom, because you have an opportunity then to listen to some really good questions and comments and commentary. And what we're always attempting to do here is to level up our conversation with the most important person in your world. You may not realize it if you're new to this teaching, but you are unique in all the world. There's never been another one like you. You're that special, and you are each individualizations of this eternal mind. Each of you are sitting on holy ground. Spirit, God, whatever you would like to call it, resides in you, operates through you as you. So that's a lot to actually digest. There's a line that I remember from another book, which I've loved over the years. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, and in the glory. Okay. All of the universe is awaiting your blossoming, and you're here to express joy and love and light. So how do you do that? We circle back to that question. Well, it's a practice. In our teaching, we invite people to come into the classes, and to do so as often as you can. You can connect with us usually 2 or 3 times a week. I remember throughout all of the past 30 years, I was either a student in a class or I was helping a teacher teach a class. My car would automatically drive an hour if the local center were closed, so I could be a part of something to remind me of the greatness and the truth that is who I really am. I had some good coaches along the way, because I remember a time where all I could do was talk about my problems. I had a lot of businesses going on, and I thought I was going to run this world, right? And I would call my father most mornings, and of course, he was a very smart guy, and he had the time, and he said, "Good morning, Gregory. What exciting challenges do you have today?" See, he was always heading me off at the pass, because I was going to call him and tell him about everything that was going, we've been chewing it, the blind, he would not be a part of the blind leading the blind. He would always be a part of asking you, what exciting challenges do you have today? We're in the business here in this teaching of reframing situations. We have the consciousness of knowing that everything that happens for us and not to us. We have the consciousness of knowing, and the wisdom of knowing that all events, circumstances, and happenings are ultimately helpful and good. Now that's quite a statement. We have the consciousness when we practice this teaching of knowing that all circumstances and happenings are happening for the good. A religious science practitioner is committed to seeing the God, the good. It's what we do in each and every situation. In each and every situation, we know every encounter, you've heard the expression before, every encounter is a holy encounter. Every person we meet is a spiritual being. I'm quite certain that the great mystics of the ages have known this. I'm certain Jesus knew that. Certainly, he was always saying, "Judge not," right? The kingdom of God is always right here, right now, in you, operating through you. You have such tremendous power at your disposal. When I was a minister for about 10 years, I took a trip. There was some type of ministerial convention going on in Florida, of all places. And we all went there, and we learned about this program that they were launching for children. It was called Quick Start. And they're trying to teach this simple religious science to kids. And that program has been changed around over the years, but essentially they had an idea of a stagecoach and stallions in front of it. And the stagecoach, of course, would represent the place where you dwell, your consciousness. So we can imagine today in 2020s, it's all slicked out with flat screen TVs, Wi-Fi, and I don't know if there's horses anymore, stallions or something else. But the idea behind it is we sit in this area of consciousness, our coach, and our ideas and our thoughts drive us everywhere. And we have this tremendous power up front. And it just responds to us. This is what life does. And the invitation of this teaching is to step out of that comfort zone, that beautiful coach, where you're so comfortable doing everything the way you've always done it. Step out. I mean, even there's COVID and there's terrible things, there's scary stuff. So mask up, get vaccinated, do whatever you have to do, and step out and get up onto that platform and know that there's power available to you. Okay? The invitation religious science is to use what Ernest Holmes talked about. Use your executive power. You can get onto that platform and take the reins and use the power. We often talk about how we keep thinking the same thoughts and we keep producing what? So we're habitual thinkers. And the problem with being a habitual thinker is you keep creating the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old. There's a minister I know from another part of the country. She's fond of saying, same song, different verse, a little bit louder and a little bit worse. If you keep thinking the same thing over and over and over again, you'll wind up marrying the same kind of person over, over. You have the same type of job over and over. If you keep thinking and doing what you've done, you can't be in a new moment. So the invitation in this teaching is to be present. Another great teacher of mine was Ram Dass. Ram Dass had one message that's really got to me and stuck with me, and I've thought about for many years. Be here now. Drop everything else so you can be fully present now. What does that mean? Drop your opinions about your father, your mate, your friend. Drop all those grievances. Love holds no grievances. If you really say you're a practitioner of this teaching, then you've got to find the way to drop the story. That would be the message of Jesus. How many times did he say we ought to forgive? I always get the math wrong. 70 times 7. Okay, that kind of like sound. So it would suggest endlessly and always, right? Forgive, forgive, and forgive. And you might say, well, but God, they're wrong though. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Our job is to be in connection. I was in a great spiritual metaphysical group about 15 years ago, and with such a gifted facilitator. And she really taught us all an important lesson, because we would each get snagged in that group. Something would go on in the group week by week where someone would do something and all of us would have an opinion. That's where all the trouble starts. Because much like the elephant, the blind man you're holding on to the trunk and you're trying to describe what this thing is, we form these opinions that are deadly. And then we become attached to them. And we really don't know the whole story. So ultimately, what I'm saying is, we want to release all of that. As we're able to release our opinions and judgments, guess who gets to experience freedom? You do. When we begin to see everybody as an individualization of God mind, we have freedom. When we begin to understand that everyone is doing the best that they can with the information, with the understanding, with the consciousness that they have. When we get to know that, we're leveling up to a place. When we're practicing the teaching as we could be, we have very few attachments. This doesn't work out, that doesn't work out. It doesn't really bother you too much, because the kingdom of God is at hand in you, it's established. And you understand as things are happening, you have this consciousness that it's all happening for the good. You know deeply that you're supplied and supported. People like that who have that kind of consciousness, who practice this teaching, are somewhat unflappable. It's a word that's not used much anymore. A person who's unfazed, unflappable, has an inner calm and an inner peace. They're able to be here now because they're not carrying a lot of worry, doubt, fear. So how do you do that? Well, I would suggest, because for me it didn't happen overnight, I would suggest the best avenue I know. Here, I'll pass on the things that were passed on to me. Learn to quiet yourself down. Now, people do that in different ways. Some people like to journal. That was the way I did for years. Other people like to just become quiet, be still. You've heard be still and know that I am God. Quiet down what landmark education would call the racket. The racket that lives where? The racket that lives within your own brain and your consciousness. All the worrying. Be still and know that I am God would suggest. Calm yourself down and know, as Louise Hay so eloquently said, all is well. All is well. Religious scientists might say it a little differently. They might say everything is perfect. And you might say, oh, how can everything be perfect? My life is going to hell, right? But we come back to this principle, and we know that we are inlets and outlets of God consciousness, and that everyone is doing the best that they can, and so are we. We learn to develop a consciousness, a healing consciousness, where we're loving ourselves more and we're accepting ourselves more. The funny little thing about this process is, to the extent you do this work and you drop your opinions, you gain freedom, okay? Because you really will start to see all these people in the world and around you expressing life at the best of their ability. You will understand that the whole world is evoluting along, this brimming world full of life, miraculous life. It's just, there's aliveness and intelligence everywhere, and we get to witness it. We get to witness it in ourselves and see it everywhere. That's a very gifted person who has that kind of insight and that kind of sight, and that's what you can get from being involved in this teaching. Quiet yourself down was this first suggestion. You might try journaling. It did me a world of good. I was told you have the ability in this day and age to commune with some of the greatest minds that have ever lived. I thought about that for quite a while. That would suggest you can read and understand the mind that was in somebody like Emerson. No, he's not easy to read, but once you understand what he was talking about, it will take your breath away. There's easier access points, I think. I think the book You Can Heal Your Life can bring you quite a long way. The thing to understand always is I am a center of God activity, and all is well. And I can create peace, and I can heal conditions. I can also learn how to become affiliated with the center. We have practitioners here if you're stuck. And we're never going to make you dependent upon us, because that's not what we do. But we can teach you how to do affirmative prayer so you can move through things more quickly. One thing I've noticed about people who attend classes, just the act of plugging in once or twice a week can bring you, if you go look back at 6 months or a year, your life will be completely different. And it's simply by you loving yourself enough and making that kind of a resolution or commitment to yourself that you deserve this. You know, it's like a faith uplift. Because if you keep on hanging with the same people, you know, you've heard birds of a feather. You know, if you keep doing what you've done, you're going to keep getting what you've got. And you have the ability to thrive. You were meant to thrive. You were meant to be a star in your own world. It was Emerson who suggested to hitch your wagon to the stars. Each of you are unique, wonderful beings full of light, power, and promise. And living a small life is not what that's not what you came here to do. You have come here to shine. So those are some of my suggestions. Connecting. And then the other thing is, once you start connecting, I'll really get on your case, because then I'll be suggesting, okay, now you're starting to physically show up. Now the next thing is I'm going to ask you, are you living in connection? And then you're going to say, what is he talking about now? And then I'm going to say, are you inviting spirit into your day-to-day living? Okay, you bring the body, then we're going to start, are you forming a practice where you're inviting spirit into your world? Was one of my father's favorite expressions. He said, spirit will not be the uninvited guest. So we want to invite that intelligence in. It's always there anyway. From the parables, you remember the story. When you turn to the Father, what happens? This was from the prodigal child. The Father comes what? And you can be out in the weeds doing everything and really messing up. But as soon as you come out of the fog and you wake up and know who you are and remember you're the heir the son or daughter of the heir. So you turn to the Father, what happens? The Father comes, you're restored in the kingdom. Louise Hay, in a songbook that was associated with her book, had a lyric which was remembering and forgetting. It's the game that we play. So if you know that's part and parcel to the problem, that we forget. We forget a lot, and we go into our old stories. So we learn how to do affirmative prayer, we learn how to do treatment, and as we see our erroneous thinking, now I'm going back to Wayne Dyer's book, Your Erroneous Zones, as you see the problem areas for you. In spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, we learn to cancel and to neutralize those thoughts and replace them with empowering ideas. So those are some of the tools. I invite you to come with us on this journey. If you're watching this a month from now on YouTube, I'm going to say right now, it's perfect time, perfect place. However you find us, in whatever way, you don't have to agree with anything. It's not required. Just find your way in and begin the journey. The one thing I will say to you, I can promise you this, and this comes from another author, there will be a quickening that will happen for you as you begin to join and connect. You're worth the effort. It won't be that difficult. Doors upon doors will open from you and worlds of realization. I will close this morning from a passage from Khalil Gibran, which is this: as you learn to love yourself, if love finds you worthy, it will direct your course. So love yourself enough so you can be in tune to that direction. And so we'll close for the morning, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.